Hi there, friends. Today I'm going to be walking you through how to create bright sunlight and shadow on snow in oil pastel. My name is Diane. Thank you so much for joining me, and let's get started. So welcome, and before we get started, I'm just going to kind of walk you through what we need, which is very few things. For this class, you need a set of oil pastels. If you have fewer colors than this, that's completely fine. Even if you have just a rudimentary like 12-piece set, that's fine. You can just kind of adjust colors as you go. For example, if I'm using a very light yellow, you would just use white first and then a little bit of your regular yellow and then a little more white over the top to kind of replicate a very light yellow. Or if you were going to make a purpley blue, but you only have a middle blue, you would put a little blue and then a little purple over it, or a little red to purple it up, and then use a little white to blend it. Anyway, you need your oil pastel set. You need a printed out copy of the masterwork we're going to be referencing. This is called First Snow. It's a painting by a person named Ivan Fedorovich Chultzy. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I apologize if I have just butchered his name, but you can read it below on the screen there so you can see how to spell it. It was done in the 20th century and it's an oil on canvas. So just search for it on the internet, print out a copy of it, and have it ready to go. And then you need a piece of paper to draw on. We're going to be doing just this section right here with a little bit of the window, the building, and this piece of snow, just as a way to kind of explore sunlight falling on snow and creating shadows. So we can start with white, which might be obvious, I'm not sure, but white on white paper doesn't show up, so maybe it's not that obvious, but just to kind of take your white, rub it on a piece of scratch paper or on the side of your paper that you're not using to make sure it's clean, because they usually are not clean unless it's a brand new set, and just color kind of a big, large area very lightly. You don't have to put a lot of pressure here. It's just so that you have a layer of oil down on the paper, something for the other colors to land on and not be so dominant with. Because if you don't put the white down first, then the purples and the greens and everything become really intense and they're hard to kind of fight back. So white first. And then we're actually going to take that light yellow I was just referencing, or if you just have a regular yellow, that's fine. This yellow is very dirty from the last thing I did, I guess. So I'm going to just rub it on the scratch paper to get it clean. And then I'm going to approximate the building edge. So just a wall going straight down and then sort of curvy on the bottom for where it hits the snow. Nothing specific. And then I'm going to color lightly with my yellow just into the corner of this building, right over the window as well, only because yellow is a part of green, so it's fine to use yellow as a base for green. It would also be fine if I didn't have yellow there. If I wanted to go around the window, it really doesn't matter. So we got that. Now we've got the building located, and I just realized there's also yellow in the snow, like these bright, sunlighty sort of highlights, reflections. So I'm going to loosely, and I apologize, this is hard to see because I'm putting yellow on white, but what I'm doing is just sort of looking at where the yellow is approximately and putting a little bit in. And nothing too specific. In fact, nothing we do is going to be too specific. We're going to approximate these shadows. We're just using them as a reference, so the shapes aren't going to be exact. It's totally fine. Just practice here. I'm going to leave my yellow tilted up in my box so I know where it is when I need it again. And then I'm going to move on to kind of this light pink, which is bordering the purples. And it's kind of a dusty pink, so I'm going to use this one, which is like a grayish pink. If you just have a straight pink, go ahead and use it. You can always add a little bit of gray on top. And then I'm going to color the pink wherever I see any purple, because pink, besides being just sort of a border around all those purpley shadows, it's a great base. So this will be my sort of roadmap for where the purpley shadows are going to go. So there's definitely a dark one right at the corner of that building sticking out. There's some at the edge of the yellow. These tree shadows are so beautiful. And notice I'm not coloring particularly hard here either. It's just a first layer. I'm probably going to go back with the pink at some point, but for right now it's just a roadmap. In fact, actually, I'm going to keep using the pink for the shadows on the building because as you can see, they look kind of grayish brown, but around them they have this pinkish kind of halo. So I'm going to go up onto the building and again, just approximating the shapes. They look kind of spider webby. There's some big chunks for sure, but lots of little branchy shaped lines. Something like that. Now, because it's very dominant and I need a placeholder, I'm going to put in the window, and it looks like I just have this one dark green, so that will probably suffice. Yeah, that should be good. So with this shape, I'm going to be fairly careful because it is more of a definite trapezoid because it's coming out towards us. So we're looking at it at an angle, so it's not going to be a rectangle. It's going to, the bottom is going to follow the angle of the bottom of the building, kind of going diagonally down to the left, and the top is going to go diagonally up to the left. And I totally didn't place that correctly, but it's okay. This is just color practice. And I'm just going to color it in solid, but not pressing super, super hard. You can see I left some little bits of light showing just as a placeholder and the first layer. So now I've got kind of my light yellows, light pinks in. I'm going to go back and do some purple work. So purple work, that's a fun term. So I'm going to grab a blue and test it. That looks about right. Probably a little too blue. I'll need a little bit more of a purple over it, but it's a good first color. So I'm going to use this and press pretty hard because now I'm trying to go over pink. And well, actually, I should say I'm pressing pretty hard in the dark areas. So that corner's dark. The rest of these are not as dark, so I don't have to press as hard, but still applying kind of medium pressure to get it to really have a presence. And in this case, I'm coloring in little circles now because even though these are lines, they're very kind of cottony looking lines. So this is going to help replicate the snow texture if you do this rather than just coloring straight. And in hindsight, I probably should have done that with the pink as well because I like to try to, from the start, color in the direction or in the manner of the shape I'm copying. I believe it lends itself to a more accurate result in the end, but I didn't, so I can just tell you that next time we should do it that way. Okay, so I've got some blue over my pink, and I'm going to use a little bit of the reddish purple now and go over that. Not entirely, I'm just going to kind of pick some places, skip around. I'm definitely going to go over the darkest areas with it because I do want those to be a little more reddish purple. But I like the idea of creating some variety in the purples like there is here. There's a lot of undulations. It goes from pink to purple to blue to pink, purple to pink. So by being less thorough with your final layers, you will create a sense of just differentiation between the colors, among the colors. So I've got all those darks in. Now I'm going to go back and put some darks on the building. So it appears that that's sort of a grayish pink. We've already got the pink, so I'm just going to pick out the darkest gray I have, which is that one, and that looks pretty good. Clean it off a little bit and press pretty hard with this in the darker areas. Those two big splotches are the ones that are the darkest. And then for the rest of it, I'm just going to color with kind of medium pressure to connect the big splotches to these smaller branchy shadows. And totally just making it up here. I'm even adding some gray ones where I didn't have pink before because I'm realizing I want more, and I can always go back and put a little more pink in if I need to. I'll do the shadows over the green window separately because they're different color. I'm going to put a little bit of gray along the bottom edge of the building to separate it more from the snow. And then I'll go into the window and both lighten the lighter areas and darken the darker ones. So for the lighter areas, it's more of a yellowy green. I'm not sure this will be light enough. This is sort of an avocado green. I'm going to try putting some over my sample of dark. I think that will work. So I'm going to color hard with this one along the bottom edge of the window, going vertically to both blend the darker green and create a presence of a yellowy green at the base. And then on the top, I'm going to go back with the dark green and color more solidly, but this time side to side to start to lay a map down for the shutter shape at the top, the little lines. So we got something like that. And then I'm going to find a corner of the pastel. So you as you're coloring, you kind of create little sharp edges. So you can use those when you need to be more precise. And I'm going to put in a line down the center and a little bit of shadow coming from the right side of the window up here. And I will need to go over these with some black, but I'm just putting this down first. So I'm really pressing hard and kind of dabbing to get the color to stick a little bit more. And then I'm going to zoom in here so you can see this a little bit better. So then I'm going to use the black. And I use black very sparingly in all my art mediums because I feel black deadens things. And I don't want to ever rely on it too much. The only reason I ever use straight black is to really emphasize darks. And then I usually go over it with another color to make sure it doesn't actually look black. So you can see this is pretty messy, but that's okay. Trying to use a sharp edge to go down and sort of create some hint of horizontalness there. And that's probably the best I can do. But I'm going to show you a cool trick with oil pastel. You can use your fingernail or a knife or a sharp, like a coin or something, and scrape when you've gone over something you don't want to go over. So I'm going to scrape off the center. Oops, it's not quite center. Scrape off the center for that little middle of the window. And I'm going to scrape off a little bit on the right and a little bit on the left, and just kind of wipe the extra oil off on my scratch paper to create that shape. And I could go over it, but I don't really think I need to. What I do want to go over is those extremely black shadows. I'm just going to dab a little bit of dark green over those to nullify the black a little bit and make it look more green and less black. And in doing that, I goofed here, so I'm going to scrape that off. And happy with the window now. So now I'm going to go back and just do a lot of blending with the shadows I created earlier. So using your white, it's usually advised to use the lightest color for blending. So since my lightest color in the snow is white, I'm going to take that and go along the edges of all of these blue purples and just sort of smear them by coloring hard with the white. So I'm changing my direction. I'm kind of pointing the white towards the edge of the blue purple and then turning it around to do the bottom edge. And that way I don't smear the blue purple into the white areas of snow as much. I'm sort of forcing them to stay contained in the areas I've already got them colored in. So I'm doing the edges on purpose first because that will keep my white pastel a little bit cleaner, and then I will go back and blend in the centers of these shapes after I'm done blending all the edges. I know you can't see my reference photo, but hopefully you have yours handy for your own reference. And this way you can see a bit better what I'm doing since we're zoomed in right now. Okay, so I've done all the edges now. I'm gonna just wipe my pastel off. Actually, I didn't need to do that, but I did anyway. And then I'm gonna go back into the centers and color lighter. I shouldn't have to press too hard here because there's already a lot of pastel built up with the blues, purples, and pinks. And the harder you press, the lighter your color will get. And in my case, I think it's pretty good the way it is. So I don't actually want to lighten it much. I just want to blend it. If yours is really too dark, then you would want to press harder so that it could get lighter in appearance. All right, so I'm pretty happy with that. And I do feel like the grays need a little bit of a boost there, like a dark red, rusty red color. So I'm going to put a little, just sort of dab the rusty red into the centers of the grays where those big blobs are. And then I'm going to use gray to blend them again because I don't actually want them to appear red. I just wanted the grays to be a little bit warmer. So that's another reason I didn't use bright red, because I don't want to make it look bright red. I just wanted a presence of red in there, reddish. If you only have a bright red, however, like I was mentioning before, you can just use your bright red and dab a little bit more gray or put some brown over it to neutralize it a little. So I'm pretty happy with that color. I'm just going to clean off my white and now go back and carefully soften the edges of all of those branch shadows on the building. So same thing, I'm pressing pretty hard, trying to point my pastel towards the dark edge that I'm blending. And now I'm just going to kind of look around and see. I'll zoom out again so we can look at the reference along with the picture. We can kind of see if there's anything else we need to do. And I'm feeling pretty good about that. It's just a study. It doesn't have to be perfect. It was mainly to match colors and kind of create those snowy textures using oil pastels. So thank you so much for joining me on this journey, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.